Weather has played a critical role in many military operations, arguably none more important than D-Day, the first day of the Allied invasion to retake Europe in June 1944. Tomorrow is the 80th anniversary of D-Day, and I thought I'd take a closer look at how the weather forecast factored in. Now, by early 1944, Allied commanders had decided on June for the invasion. The full moon was on the 6th. It would yield the best illumination for pilots, so Eisenhower had tentatively chosen June 5th, if the weather cooperated. The operation needed low tide around dawn to expose underwater German mines near the beaches. Bomber and fighter aircraft required a certain minimum ceiling. The Army wanted firm, dry ground. The Navy needed good visibility and, of course, limited waves in the English Channel. 3 forecast teams, 2 British and 1 American, overseen by Captain James Stagg of the British Royal Air Force, worked independently and then reached a consensus that Stagg presented to Eisenhower. Now, in 1944, there was no satellite imagery, no weather radar, no computer models. Even a 2-day forecast was a huge challenge. Still, by 1944, the Allies controlled the Atlantic, so German meteorologists didn't have easy access to as much weather data on incoming weather patterns as the Allies did. Now, the weather of the first few days of June 1944 was dominated by an upper air low in the North Atlantic with a ridge of high pressure west of Spain. The fast westerly flow between them sent a parade of storms through the British Isles. Here's a modern-day reconstruction of the weather early on the morning of June 4th. This is when Eisenhower had to decide whether to stick with June 5th for the invasion. Stagg told him that another round of wind and rain would likely sweep over the channel on the 5th, but a short break would likely follow on the 6th. And on that advice, Eisenhower delayed the invasion by 24 hours. As it turned out, the weather on June 5th was poor. The invasion would have been next to impossible. The weather on the 6th was marginal but tolerable. Seas were choppy and skies gray at dawn to greet the largest amphibious landing force ever assembled at that time. But the sun came out a bit in the afternoon and nature cooperated enough so that the Germans, who expected an invasion only during a stretch of fair weather, were surprised. Their high command had relaxed. Their aircraft and naval vessels were not fully ready. Asked years later by John Kennedy why the Normandy invasion had been so successful, Eisenhower said, "Because we had better meteorologists than the Germans." Almost exactly 11 years after D-Day, on June 11th, 1955, Eisenhower, by then President of the United States, gave the commencement address at Penn State. Recognizing the importance of a good forecast and knowing that rain was a possibility for the ceremony, Eisenhower had consulted with Penn State meteorology legend Dr. Charles Hostler, who gave the go-ahead to have commencement outdoors. That forecast worked out too. Stay tuned. Our extended forecast is next.